Good morning and welcome to the May Downtown Aviation Economy and Innovation Subcommittee. My name is Daniel Valenzuela, District 5 Council Member, and I'm honored to chair this particular subcommittee and to be joined by my colleagues to my right, City's Vice Mayor, Thelda Williams, and to my left, Michael Nowakowski, District 7 Council Member, and I know that Councilwoman Laura Pastor is en route. So we do have a quorum. We will go ahead and get started. We start this particular subcommittee the same way we end it, which is a call to the public. It's more than just a reminder that the public gets the first and the last word as you always should, the public. For those who are watching on television or online, or for those of you who are here, you'll be able to speak on any one of these items if you just fill out a speaker's card. We do have a few cards to begin with. I want to remind everyone that everyone will have 2 minutes to speak in fairness and consistency. I'll also just remind everyone that in the call to the public portion of it, it's not, the items may not be agendized that you're talking about. Please don't take offense if the panel cannot respond to what you were saying, because legally we're not allowed to do that. We do have city staff in the room that will be able to connect with you after, depending on what you are speaking about. So the first speaker is Cynthia Reyes. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me be here today. I'm an ISS worker, and I work for Sky Harbor International Airport. I've been with the company going on 4 years, and I'm also a UFCW Local 99 member. And I can tell you right now how ISS has been with us as workers. Well, we stand to lose as workers if you allow Flagship to take over this contract. We stand to lose our wages. We stand to lose our 401k. We stand to lose our seniority. And this is not something that we're ready to go back and have to fight all over again, because they underbid ISS. The workers will pay for it in the end. We're going to be the ones losing out, not the companies. So for me, this is something that is not only personal for myself, but also for the coworkers and my coworkers and all the workers there at the airport. We don't want Flagship. We want to keep ISS because we already have a rapport with them. They're a very good company with the workers. They've helped the workers. And this to us is very important, that we keep ISS at Sky Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Next speaker, Binto Mohammed.
Good morning. My name is Binto Mohammed. I've been working at the airport for so long, almost 4 years, been here. And we like to keep ISS. It's really good. And we have all people who understand us. We work together as a family. We're there for each other. We make the airport clean. And we don't want to keep starting all over again, because we don't need to go back and forth. We've been here for so long, and we have a great opportunity. Our vacations, there's the unions who help us out. We really don't want to go back, starting all over again. We want to stay where we are, because we have many opportunity, like part-time you can go back and come back, or full-time with the same position we have, with no complaint, anything. Supervisors who are there for us to help make us understanding whatever we need. We're there, and we're not willing to lose our company. We really want ISS to stay. Thanks for your understanding. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, William Small.
Good morning. As everyone else has said, we don't want to go backwards. We've got a good benefit program, and I think we need to remember why we brought ISS into the airport in the first place. They are a global company. They take care of their workers. They have a good rapport with the union. I've been at the airport since June of 2012. I have been through contract disputes before, and it is ugly. You have the most beautiful airport in the world, I've been told. We don't want to go backwards. We want to move forward with ISS, so please consider that.
Thank you, sir. Refugio Diaz.
I'm gonna translate
Of
for
course.
Mi nombre es Refugio Díaz.
him. My name is Refugio Diaz.
Yo quiero que esta compañía se quede la que tenemos, la ISS,
I want this company to stay. I want ISS to stay
porque estuve enfermo 5 meses y ellos me respetaron mi trabajo y me lo dieron, me lo van a dar para atrás. Voy a empezar a trabajar 12 de este mes.
I've been sick for 5 months, and this company has been willing to take me back with nothing to lose. And then I'm starting back again on May 12th.
Y quiero que, por ejemplo, no quiero que venga otra compañía porque yo ya tengo trabajando aquí 20 años y ha estado muy bien, y no quiero que de un día para otro se nos acabe todo lo bueno que tenemos ahorita criando en esta compañía.
I've been at the airport for 20 years. We have a good relationship with ISS, and I don't want all this to get lost for having this new company coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Hannah Rubin.
Hi, my name is Hannah Rubin. I'm an organizer with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. Like they've said, we represent ISS workers. We've also been working with some flagship workers at the airport. And recently, we've reached a settlement agreement through the NLRB with the company for harassing some of their workers because they wanted to form a union, and also a termination for one of their workers who was advocating for his coworkers. And for his settlement, we reached $35,000 for him. So briefly, I wanted to read the notice that the company has to post for 60 days through the NLRB. Federal law gives you the right to form, join, or assist a union, choose a representative to bargain with us on your behalf, act together with other employees for your benefit and protection, choose not to engage in any of these protected activities. We will not do anything to prevent you from exercising the above rights. We will not ask you about your union activities. We will not assign you work away from other employees because you engage in union activities. We will not assign you work with other employees who do not speak your first language because you engaged in union activities. We will not fire you because you engaged in concerted activities. So those are just some of the examples of what the company needs to post now that we reached a settlement with them, that they did have some unfair labor practices. We also have the settlement agreement available to you guys if you are interested as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that is the last speaker for this section of the meeting. There'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for those who'd like to speak then. We'll move on to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes for the last meeting.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next is the consent agenda, items 2 through 11.
I move approval. Oh, sorry.
I would like to pull item 5.
Okay, so
Accepting 5.
great. So the motion is to approve items 2 through 11, except for item 5. We have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll go now to item number 5, ground lease with Heinz ground lease with Heinz Interest Limited Partnership.
So I just wanted to add some language. So I'm not sure if we need to go through a whole, if all my colleagues want to go through the whole process, but I just wanted to add some language to the lease. Go ahead. Okay, all right. I just wanted to add language of wanting to be working with the planning department staff to include items in the site plan be consistent to the TOD elements. Since we're going through this whole TOD, since we're going through this whole process of treat and shade, bike racks, I would like it to be consistent. Is that possible?
Mr. Chairman, to Councilwoman Pastor, we certainly could encourage the developer to participate in TOD-related development. I think it is just outside the
Literally
outside the required zone.
Right.
But I think we could encourage some of these items such as tree and shade and bike racks, and encourage using perhaps light rail for transit.
Correct. I would just like some consistency since we're in the middle of that process, and so
we could
I would like to
encourage that. Yes.
I actually think they would probably be very proactive at it, but just to, I don't know if you add language or we can figure it out.
We will work with Mr. Stevens' group at planning and the developer and encourage that.
Thank you.
I'll move approval of item as amended.
Second.
And the motion is understanding that it's just outside. Staff is going to have a conversation, and you made it very clear. I understand what you're saying. All you can do is encourage, and so that's the motion. Right.
Yeah, to work with the planning and development staff regarding the kind of the elements that are in the TOD to just expand, since they're literally a step outside. So to see if they're willing to be proactive in doing that.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Item 12, the 2018 Phoenix Building Construction Code adoption. Speaking of Alan Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairman Valenzuela, members of the subcommittee. I have with me Ms. Sandy Hoffman and Mr. Mark Sipes, the building official, to talk about the 2018 Building Construction Code adoption here this morning. The list you see before you is all of the building construction codes that apply, that govern new development in the city of Phoenix. These are your life safety issues that really are very technical, and they govern everything from the type of wiring to plumbing, elevators, all kinds of things that are there, and staff is proposing to update those codes as shown here. The only one that we're not updating yet is the 2012 International Green Construction Code, and that's because that national code has not yet been adopted. When it is adopted nationally, they're working on updates, then we'll take a look at that. But we're bringing forward all these other things right here this morning. It is important to note that staff is proposing to adopt the Uniform Plumbing Code and the International Plumbing Code, which is one of the key compromises that staff made and the mayor and council with the last code adoption in 2012. It allows for a property owner and developer to choose either the IPC code or the UPC code. They just label their plans appropriately, and that has worked very well, so we're continuing that in this effort as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hoffman to walk us through some of the details.
Thank you. The International Building Code is part of the international codes that we have, and that involves the commercial and industrial buildings within the city. And I just want to let you know some of the staff within the Planning and Development Department served on a committee that helped develop the new 2018 codes, and they were successful in getting some of our 2012 amendments embedded into the new 2018 code. So the new codes include design options for solar and other technology improvements. And since Adobe is indigenous to the Southwest, it's only fitting for us to have that embedded into our codes to allow them to use that as an option for development. Currently, we're using a Pima County design format to try to evaluate Adobe type of construction. So now we'll have it embedded in our own code. And wind and soils requirements have been amended within our amendments for small projects to make it a little bit easier and more cost effective because, again, it's not affecting the life safety concerns for that type of development. The International Residential Code is allowing both the prescriptive and the performance design options. Prescriptive is that's actually embedded in the code. You follow it precisely. Performance allows a developer and or design professional to have the flexibility to create a design of their own that, again, is in compliance with the level of the requirements per the building code. Ventilation has been addressed because we have a lot of carports in the valley, and therefore we have this amendment in there to avoid any kind of carbon monoxide concerns. And the ICC codes were written with the thought of cold weather on the East Coast. And so we've now embedded, of course, the minimum levels that you would need for cooling, because again, that's a critical factor in our area. The International Energy Code ensures multiple benefits, including reduced energy usage and conservation of natural resources. This code only applies to commercial development. The Phoenix Amendments allows commissioning as an option, and we will require the applicant to do a performance-based report to ensure that they meet the energy evaluations that they have shown in their plans. And that will be needed before they do their certificate of occupancy. And multifamily projects will be given the option of whether they want to do the residential energy code or a commercial energy code. And there is a brand new international swimming pool and spa code that we're adopting, and it's a new code for us. We're currently following a code that the City Council had adopted. Sorry, do you have a question?
I had a question about the slides.
Sure.
What's the difference between the residential and the commercial energy code? Is there a difference?
Yes, it's a level of detail. So a residential is based more on the building envelope and the ventilation and escaping of things, while if you get into the more commercial, this one, it gets into all kinds of level of inspections, including light sensors as you go into each room. If somebody walks in, the light will go on or off. It goes into more of the duct work and ensuring that the flows are the same in every room and that type of level. So it gives the developer an option of if they want to use either one. Both of them have elements, but I think the commercial is more onerous.
Okay, that's why I was just wondering, because it's in multifamily. So I would think it would, in my mind, I think residential. And then I think commercial at the bottom. So that's why I was asking.
So one of the key differences between life safety type regulations like the building code and the zoning code regulations that are more, quality of life type regulations, multifamily is treated as residential via the zoning code when you're talking about quality of life, but from a building safety standpoint, it fits in a commercial occupancy standard. So it has to meet more of the commercial standards because of the construction type and the amount of people and things that are in there. So that's what the difference is.
Learn something every day. Thank you. Sure.
So we are adopting the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, or proposing to, and currently we follow something that was approved by council in May of 1990 for fence barriers. So with this action, we would be moving forward with including what we currently have in the fencing provisions, but we add a variety of options such as audible alarm systems and pool covers. There was quite a...
One second. Chairman and committee members, you'll remember a couple weeks back, we had a woman show up in the public comment section of council who had some health problems and didn't have any kids that live at home, and she was wanting for help with her pool. And so this new building code will allow for those different types of options. There are new technologies that are out there that have come along since 1990 when the city said, nope, everyone has to have a pool fence, and that's what you have to do. And that's what she was objecting to of, look, I don't have any kids that live at home. It's hard for me to do other things. So she was asking for some relief. This gives some additional tools for us to say, here's things you can use without going through an appeal process. You can do some of those things today, but you've got to file an appeal with the building official and do a technical appeal to have those addressed. This would embed in the code saying, if you meet these standards and do that, here's what you can do as options. And they're all national life safety options that are looked at as part of these.
When you say they're all options, does that mean you don't have to do any of them?
No, you still have to do something to address the safety, because that is a requirement from the building code side of things. You'd have to address it. We wouldn't say you can't address it. This just gives more tools to address the safety of pools.
I'm still not getting it. So you don't have to have a fence? Is that what you're saying?
So if the new code is adopted, and you would be able to look at these different types of options here in lieu of doing a fence. So you could have an audible alarm, you could have a pool cover that would
What's
go.
an audible alarm if there's no fence?
So that would be if the back door is open, you have to have you have a equipment set up that suddenly the alarm would go off and you would know that a child went into the backyard, and be a way to alert you of that.
When that back door be self-closing too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Chairman Valenzuela and subcommittee members, there's also a system you can put in a pool to actually have where if somebody were to, the water gets disturbed, of course, it depends, windy, there is a system that will actually sense if somebody gets into the pool, and that will set an alarm off as well.
Okay, thank you.
Question. We're adopting these codes. However, and I'm just, say the woman. When we adopt these codes, then does everybody then have to fall in line with the code, or are they grandfathered? Meaning the code wasn't in existence when I got my pool, and now this code is coming into existence, and you're asking me to go get, I have several pool safety options.
So, Chairman Valenzuela and subcommittee members, we are not going to go retroactively back to everybody. I would assume since we had a code in place, since adopted provision from the council since 1990, between 1990 and now, they should have had the fence barriers in place. So we are not going to be proactive in trying to check to see if they do that. Anybody with new pools or new development would have the option of choosing, do we want to do a fence like we had required before, or do you want to do an audible system or a pool cover that automatically covers the pool until they're out there in the backyard and then they, uncover the pool.
Okay, so this is codes for future build.
Correct.
But I'm talking, I guess what I'm talking about, I understand now, it's code for future build. I'm talking about, say a family member of mine had bought their house, 1987, has a pool, does not have any of these options, or doesn't have a pool fence or anything else, then are they required now to put up a pool fence?
Chairman Valenzuela, Councilman Pastor.
I need clarity.
They have had requirements since 1990 for a fence. There may have been some grandfathering and associated with that, but that's not changing that. All this is saying is that this gives you more options for new development. If somebody had a fence around their pool today and wanted to come in and say they wanted to do a self-closing door and the latch height, and they could come in now and say, hey, I want to do those and take my fence down, so they won't have to have a fence. But they have to have a fence, and that's been the city's requirement since 1990, as compared to, and the city is even more restrictive than the state. The state does allow for you to not have a fence. I think if you don't have any kids that are less than a certain age, there's some requirements, but the city has taken a stronger approach because of drownings and other things to say everyone has to have a pool, or has to have a fence. If you have a pool.
I think it's clarity for our residents to understand what the city adopted in 1990 and possibly are not in code, I guess. When you say the self-closing doors, those are the doors that have the alarm at the top, and if someone walks out, the house kind of rings, like there's a notice like somebody's in the house or somebody's left the house, and then That's what you're speaking of, right?
The self-latching doors are ones that actually, they're a heavier door, and so it automatically closes, so you can't have it open
Talking
behind you.
full fence door.
No, this is a sliding glass
With
door.
a sliding glass. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do that automatically? They'll close?
Yeah, they have ones that close automatically, and that's part of, you're seeing that more and more in new homes where they're coming in, and part of what they want to do is, because some people don't like fences, so they're opting for other options. And currently, we deal with those through an appeal process, and this just puts it in based upon national standards across the country that have been studied. If you do these standard ones, then you can do that without going through an appeal process.
Do you have to make a choice of one of those barriers somehow, a safety option? I mean, you can't just ignore them all.
Correct, you have to do one, yeah, at least one.
And to clarify, because Councilwoman Pastor asked a question about she gave the 1987 example. These are new builds, it's not new ownership. So if someone purchases a home that was built in 1965, that's been grandfathered. We're talking new builds, correct? From
Correct.
1990 moving forward, regardless of who the owner is.
Right, yes, and then unless there's a remodel that may have occurred, if there's remodeling, then it might
Just
trigger some things.
Clarification, okay.
But again, as a new owner, if you had small children, now you have a variety of options you can choose from if you want to look and see what would meet a code requirement. Now I could say, well, I can put a fence, I can do an audible system, I can do a pool cover. So then it maybe gets them thinking in terms of what works best for their lifestyle and their situation.
How's that enforceable?
Pool parties. You go
Well,
to
yeah,
any pool
I'm
parties as
just
possible.
thinking, yeah, you're right. I'm thinking as we're doing this, I understand the code, but I'm thinking of people that I can go through my mind right now and say, oh, they're not in, this was passed in 1990 and.
So Chairman Valenzuela, Councilman Pastor, as part of the building plan review process and construction process, they have to show us on a set of plans, this is how they're addressing that code requirement. They're using one of these options or a fence. Our inspectors will go out as part of that and ensure that that's what's up per the plans. That's how we ensure that there's compliance.
And that's for new build. I'm just going to
Correct,
keep
yeah.
saying new build.
New builds.
Yes.
Okay, got
Yes,
it.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we had very comprehensive outreach to the public. We had a website that anybody could get to. They could provide feedback to the staff. We allowed any design professional or anyone to actually submit some kind of proposal for amendments to our code, and we reviewed those, went through the full process with those proposals that we received through the website. We had 15 different steering committees that looked at all the different codes because there's such specialty between, say, electrical and mechanical, plumbing, structural. And we had outside design professionals serving on these steering committees to develop the list of different amendments that we wanted to have from the base code. And we also had outreach that included design professionals, professional association groups, union representatives, Multifamily Housing Association, the Home Builders of Central Arizona Association, and Valley Partnership, for example, as well as we involved all the different departments within the city, including fire department, street transportation department, water services, neighborhood services, community economic development, as well as the HP Commission in the review of the proposals. With that, I'll turn it over to Alan.
So the next to last slide here deals with how we implement this building code. Because this deals with all different types of construction, there's a phased implementation schedule. Currently, we're targeting June 6th for full council approval, which would make it effective a month later, July 6th. What we are proposing to do is between July 6th and the end of the summer, anyone can choose the old code or the new code to start their project, and then once they start that, they would stay with that code through the whole process. And then we would go forward with that. Standard plans for our single-family residential, when we have new residential products are being built, they have standard plans that they get approved. And because they have a variety of different plans, if you think about the different models that they offer, they go through and update those, but we give them a greater time period in which to go through and update those. It helps them with their work and their professionals updating those plans, the new codes, and also helps our staff to have that phase level because we don't have all of them come in at once to have those. And so we give them until July 1, 2019 to update those. And with that, we are happy to answer any questions and ask for your recommendation of approval of the 2018 building construction codes.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We don't have cards. Do we have a motion or comments from my colleagues?
Move approve.
Second.
Awesome. We have a motion and a second. And any discussion? Further discussion? Okay, I just want to thank you for the hard work. I remember when we were first having this conversation, I was leaning over and talking to our vice mayor here. We were both on this subcommittee and remember getting the phone calls and meeting with all of, the industry and the labor organizations, and how is everyone going to come together to do what's right for the city of Phoenix, and you really did a great job, Ellen and team. You've done such a good job, I think, of pulling everyone on the same page. I think giving the industry an opportunity to use either code, I mean, it's good for what they're trying to accomplish, and obviously that has buy-off from all of the other partners as well. So this is what it looks like when you pull people together, I think, to solve a problem. Going back to the pole fence thing, I'll tell you, I'm watching that and listening to that. It's really personal, and you don't have to, I'm also a first responder, but you don't have to be a first responder to realize that we lead the nation consistently in child drownings. We're number 1 or 2 consistently in child drownings, and I have been on far too many of those types of calls, and you never forget those ones, and it's they're devastating for everyone, not just obviously the child, the family, everyone in that child and in that family's world, their classmates. I mean, the evening news will cover it, and it brings the community to its knees. And I guess now I'm on my little PSA on watching our kids around water, but that is a call. I'll tell you, we go on so many emergencies. Your first responders go on so many emergencies. You'd be surprised. I mean, I've been doing that for 15 years, and still every now and again I get a call and I say, well, that's a new one, right? I mean, there's so many different things that you respond to. There's only 2 that I can think of that are absolutely 100% preventable, and that's one of them. And the other is driving under the influence. But this one, and this is just one that stays with you, and so thank you for the commitment to just go a little stronger even than the state. It's another area where we should be proud as a city to lead by example. So great job all the way around. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on now to item 13. Authorization to participate in application requesting establishment of community facilities district and to enter into development agreement. And this is with Chris Mackey.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the subcommittee. With me here today, I have Denise Olson, Director of our Finance Department, and Alan Steven, Director of our Planning and Development Department. We are here today to talk to you about the creation of a community facilities district at Park Central Mall to allow for the continued revitalization of the mall. Just a quick story. When I first had the privileges of finding out that I'd been selected as the Economic Development Director for Phoenix, you kind of make your bucket list. What are those things that you can do to make a difference really quickly? And I made that bucket list. Lived here my whole life. My mom used to work at Park Central Mall. It's where I shopped as a kid. Thought that would be such an easy thing to redevelop and turn into this vital, job-generating, developed mall. And then we started peeling back the onion of the easements and the ownership and the restriction and the challenges. And we went, yeah, let's move that to 5 years. And we're here today pleased to tell you we have a solution before you today that doesn't make us wait for the 5 years for redevelopment. As you'll remember, Park Central operated as a mall until the mid-1990s. It is now mostly vacant. Of approximately 250,000 square feet of existing built environment, the former mall itself is currently under redevelopment by Plaza Companies Holualoa as creative office, restaurant, retail, community gathering space. But that's just the built environment. That still leaves the massive parking lots on the 39 acres. Currently, there are 3 owners, and that is the HPPC, which you know as Plaza Companies in Holualoa, Park Central Mall LLC, which is the ownership of most of the parking lots, and then Dignity, who owns their building on the site. As you know from looking at the site, it is mostly a sea of surface parking. The one garage that exists on it today is 1 surface level and 1 level up. If we look at kind of phasing of development, this is just kind of a short term within 3 years of what that development would look like. It would include 100,000 square feet of new office development on the existing parking lot today, approximately 220 unit of high density residential, a 300 key hotel, 2,000 stall parking garage. For the first phase of redevelopment of the project, it really needs about 1,400 spaces. So when you think about the surface parking lot, we have a parking lot today that people park on. If you build buildings on it, you not only have to accommodate for the existing parking spaces, but whatever development is built on top of it needs parking spaces as well. But also Dignity, our great partner in Midtown, they are the 2nd largest healthcare campus in the state, continues to grow and thrive, and they have reached out to the ownership to say they are interested in redevelopment of the site and bringing 550 spaces onto the site. Just as a way of refreshing, we talked earlier about the fact that Plaza Holualoa owns the existing built environment, and there's other ownership that owns the surface parking lot and others. I'm pleased to tell you today that Plaza Holualoa is under contract to purchase the entire site and bring all of Park Central back under one ownership and one control, which will allow for that future development. I want to be careful, it's not a done deal yet, but they are under contract, and we're very hopeful that this will come to a positive conclusion. If we look at the ultimate redevelopment of Park Central, and this is just a conceptual master plan over what might happen over the next 15 years based on who we're fortunate enough to bring to the site, you'll see there is a project, and you know our code names. We have great fun in naming our projects with code names. Project Integrate is a project that is in serious negotiations for Park Central. They would build a new development on the front of Park Central, right on Park Central, along Central Avenue itself, bringing many hundreds of new jobs and visitors into that market. We're very excited about who that could be and when they would develop, and we'll know in very short order. We hope to know by the end of May, should they select that. Delivering a 100,000 square foot tenant is a requirement of this development. As you can see, the 300-room hotel, approximately 400,000 square feet of new office, 300,000 square feet of new medical office, perhaps a senior living in conjunction with Dignity. We're finding, the days of people going to a Sun City or a Sun Lakes are ending. Our older population, and count me as getting to be one of them, wants to live closer, a lot of them closer to connectivity and light rail and kids and activity and restaurants and retail. So that seemed to be a pretty good companion. And of course, allowing for the additional connectivity to our light rail, turning this into a true transit connected development. You've got 2 stops on light rail, making it so the site is really permeable. It doesn't separate our great anchor of our healthcare campus from our great light rail. It really opens it up to the community and really connects it through the area. This is what we have described to you, and just some renderings of what could potentially be there. It's important to note that at ultimate build-out, estimates are about $350 million of new development taking place on that 39 acres. And we estimate generally that build-out to take about 15 years. I apologize, those lights make that difficult. I need to make that a note. Don't use green. If you look at the existing conditions today, there's about 3,100 parking places that exist on Park Central. In order to turn this into a true urban environment, we need to move to more of a district parking model. We need to gather the existing parking spaces today and move them into a structure. We're not really proposing to add new spaces. We're proposing to really combine those spaces into a structure, taking away the heat island, removing all that asphalt, all that hot space where people have to walk over today. They really don't understand how they move from Central Avenue to 3rd Avenue, and turning it into a much more sustainable urban environment. For that first phase, as we said, about 1,400 stalls would be needed. And just for your reference and to make it easy to see, the first phase of development would really take place at the northwest corner of Central Avenue and Catalina. What we are here to propose today is the creation of a community facilities district to allow for the construction of that garage. We would propose approximately $23.5 million in bonds and a 25-year bond on the community facilities district. And just as a refresh, community facilities districts have existed in the state since the early 1990s. Last year, the legislature made a few changes and modified that, which we brought forward to you a few council meetings ago to make those modifications. It allows for bond sale for the construction of public infrastructure, whether it's streets, water, sewer, or parking garages, as long as they're public parking garages are considered public infrastructure. Our CFO has run an analysis, and generally we expect the debt service on that to be about $1.5 million a year. We have also taken into account what would be a repair and replacement account should the garage need work done on it, and a reserve fund just in case things go bad and the community facilities district needs something to pull from. What we are proposing is the city's participation in that community facilities district. So not only the authorization to enter into an application of the community facilities district, but actually our participation in that district. What we would propose is that in years 1 through 6, any new eligible sales tax created by the project on the 39 acres be put towards the debt service on a new parking garage. In years 7 through 25, we would propose that be reduced to 50% of the new sales tax revenue be put towards that. We'll still collect all the fees, all the property tax, all of the economic impacts that come off the site. We would propose that the ownership, which would be Plaza Holualoa and the 39 acres partnership, in years 1 through 5, they would put $720,000 towards the debt service, and what that represents are the payment of the parking stalls, parking spaces right from the beginning. Whether they need them or not, they would pay for those stalls right from the beginning. In years 6 and 7, you see it jumping to $792,000, and that's because we really see the ability to move the rate of parking spaces up in years 6 through 7. Right now, Midtown, unfortunately, as you know, in 2012 through 14, we'd fallen to about 38% vacant in that market. And so the pay for parking in the office is just catching up. We're now just about 14% vacant in a 13 million square foot market and moving into single digits. So it just doesn't meet the demand. Parking replacement costs and stall costs don't meet. When we move into years 8 through 25, you see that jumping up, and remember our debt service is $1.5 million. You see them jumping up to being able to provide for $942,000 in years 8 through 25. And what that is representative of is Dignity moving into paying for some agreement that is already existing on the property today and being able to pay for their parking, and they're required to pay for their parking at that time. What we've not factored in, we wanted to be very conservative, what we've not factored in is this garage would be exactly the midway point 1 mile away from Steel Indian School Park and Hance Park. So when we have large events, we could work with our Parks Department and our special events team to encourage people to park here in this district-owned garage, and then their pass would allow for light rail to move back and forth. So it allows for some parking at those garages as well. If the revenue, the new revenue that's created by the project and the dedication from ownership is not enough in any one of the 25 years to cover the debt service, a special assessment would be put on the property tax of the ownership of Park Central, of the 39 acres, and that would cover any gap. And let's say the worst possible thing could happen, and that would be we go into another lost decade. Heaven forbid, I'm just done if we go into another lost decade. But if we did, that the value of that 39 acres would backstop the bonds that are there. They'd have to be sold or leveraged against the bond itself, putting the city at no risk. So we've worked together with our CFO, with our attorneys, with ownership to put together what we think is a great model to allow for redevelopment of an urban site. Most importantly, the garage is never privately owned. It is always owned by the public district. And at the end of the 25 years, it is transferred into city ownership at no cost to the city. At that time, the council could decide to continue operating it as a parking garage. They could sell it and monetize the garage at that time. Finally, the garage is being constructed initially as a redevelopment opportunity. So it will be constructed as a flat garage. So let's say we don't need all 2,000 spaces in the future or all 1,400 spaces in the future. Let's say we end up needing 1,000. 2 of the floors could be converted into other uses, whether it's residential, retail, gathering space, amenity space, easily converted. These days, it's hard to convert the old garages because they ramp. So you have angled floors. These would be built from the beginning that way. If we look at the revenue that we expect to come in, you'll see, and this is a very conservative level, in years 16 and on in this project, we expect the new revenue to the city of Phoenix to be $2.3 million a year. So that's money that the city otherwise wouldn't be able to recoup unless we redevelop that parking garage. Staff is requesting this subcommittee to move approval to the full council for a vote on the creation of the application process for the Community Facilities District and for us to enter into a development agreement. It's important to note that the applicant and the city would need to come forward to this council with the application to create the Community Facilities District in the near future following state policy. And with that, we'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, great, thank you so much for this. We do have 3 cards, so maybe we should just go to the cards first. And marked in favor, Debney Prius.
Good morning, Chairman Valenzuela and committee members. As you all know, downtown Phoenix's transformation into a thriving urban center is drawing more employees, students, residents, and visitors into the downtown area than ever before. As the momentum radiates into Midtown, Phoenix Community Alliance, PCA, supports the creation of a community facilities district at Park Central Mall to continue redevelopment efforts of this important site. Furthermore, PCA's Public Affairs Committee concluded that a parking garage through a CFD at Park Central Mall is important as a vehicle to provide public parking for the potential development area. I'm here today on behalf of PCA to formally submit a letter of support, and thank you for considering our support to establish a community facilities district for Park Central Mall for the benefit of Midtown Phoenix.
Thank you. We do have 2 cards, both marked in favor and available to speak if they'd like. First one, Cindy.
Gone.
Is it Gone? What is it?
Gone. Yeah, gone.
Gone?
Yeah.
Lots of letters, just gone.
Dr. Gone? Would you like to speak, ma'am? You already marked in favor, but.
Ditto what Debbie said.
Great, thank you. And the trailblazer, Sharon Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Sharon Harper. I reside at 7251 North Central Avenue and am here to encourage your support of what has been presented. In the course of our involvement at Park Central, we have met so many neighbors and neighborhood groups and business leaders and leaders from arts and culture and bicycle associations, and it's been really exciting to hear about their enthusiastic vigor about something happening at Park Central and their engagement in wanting to see all of this come back together. So I wanted to share that experience and our goal as the developer here to create something that does once again provide a vigorous, vibrant business community that engages the public in many different ways. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Quick question.
Vice Mayor?
Will this be continued to be called Park Central? I mean, it's kind of a landmark in the valley. I would hope that it would be Park Central Garage or Development or something.
Chairman, Vice Mayor Williams, it will. It will be called Park Central. It's a legacy name. It is what the ownership plans to continue to call the entire development is Park Central.
Good. I'm very excited about it. So I think it's a great idea.
That question reminds me of Christown Mall.
Yeah.
Like, you can change it to whatever you want.
But it's still
Christown Mall.
Christown. Yeah. It's kind of like Metro Center. It will
Yeah.
always be
Yeah,
Metro
exactly. Any other questions or comments? Or a motion?
Go ahead.
Just a comment, there was one of the slides you talked about, that we can reduce the parking, right? And that they were actually built, to actually put some retail in there if needed. Who makes that decision, and what say-so does the city have in that at all?
Chairman, Councilman Valenzuela, we'll be working closely as the economic development team, and Alan Stevenson's team will be working closely with them on the redevelopment of Park Central Mall. As we are looking at those retail restaurant, we are bringing them opportunities as, in fact, we have a tour next week set up with 2 potential users of the space. So it is allowed for today in the zoning, and Mr. Stevenson can provide any further guidance on that. It's allowed for today. We're working very closely with ownership to encourage those restaurants and retail as the neighborhood wanted.
I think the question is the parking space. If we no longer need space, how do we convert that? Who decides to convert it into retail, and does the city have a voice in it?
I apologize. Thank you for that clarification. Chairman, Councilman Valenzuela, the city council will be a member of the district that owns the garage. So any changes that would happen in that garage, the city would be at the ownership table and the decision-making table. So staff would bring that back through a district committee meeting to have council's voice and weighed in and voted. Council would be 9 members of the district, and then the 2 largest property owners at this time would be Holualoa and Plaza. They would be the other 2 members of the district, making up for 11 members. So council would have 9 of those votes.
Right. I just wanted to secure that because more and more we're running into parking problems in downtown Phoenix, and especially now that we don't have Block 23 for the big concerts and events that attract the Super Bowls of the world to Phoenix, that we're using Margaret Hens Park and also Indian Still Park. And one of the biggest problems we're having now is parking. So this will be a great solution for that, so thank you.
Parking's my life.
So we kind of covered a lot and what will eventually take place there at Park Central Mall. What do the phases look like? What's the progression? How is this going to happen?
Let's see if I can remember them, and the ownership representatives here will call me into correction if I'm
And
wrong.
this question, by the way, I couldn't be more supportive or excited about a project in our city than this project. And so this is more, I'm very curious, and a lot of people I'm sure are wondering, we're talking about modern office space, hotel, another place where people will be able to live close to light rail. I love the way of, just thinking toward the future. We are continuing to be a multimodal city. We're still a city that is spread over 500 square miles, 517 square miles, and many people drive. So having a parking garage today works. We don't know what the future holds, and hopefully more and more people will go with public transportation. And when that day happens, I think we're a step closer to helping to adapt to that. So anyway, I'm very excited. This is just, again, someone now as a constituent also, how's this gonna look?
Chairman Valenzuela, members of the subcommittee, I could chime in real quick. This, the plan that's coming forward is really implements the Reinvent Phoenix plan, which, as you all know, was a very popular plan. We took a lot of input, to develop that plan. This was one of the key sites because of its location in the Central Avenue corridor, the availability of underutilized land with all the parking lots. A lot of those pretty exhibits that you remember seeing that the consultant came up with kind of focused on what could happen here. And now with the ownership group coming in and consolidating that and the right folks at the table as the ownership group, they're really seeking to take that to the next level and make it happen here today.
Okay.
Chairman, kind of on that first phase, just to specifically answer, on this particular site, in the first phase, we'd see the garage, about 100,000 square feet or more of new office space, a 300-room hotel, and about 200 units of high-density residential screening the eastern end of the garage from Central Avenue. Phase 2, which we kind of project is about 5 years from now. So phase 1 would start this year, early next year. Phase 2 would be, additional office and additional housing. Phase 3 would be more office, retail, restaurants interspersed throughout all of this. And then phase 4 would be the additional office. Depending on the tenants we bring in and that we're able to work with ownerships brokers to bring in, they could change. Phases 2 through 4 could be interspersed or changed based on the need that we have. But phase 1 is pretty well sewn up. And that would start very quickly.
That's very exciting. I want to thank you, Chris, and all of city staff for doing this. I want to thank my colleague to my left, Laura Pastor. This is District 4, and you have PCA who's speaking up in support, and obviously Dignity and Plaza, Lualoa, obviously, Park Central, everyone coming together, the private sector working with the public sector. So this is a great example, I think, of what government, how government should be working with the private sector to help facilitate something like this. The private sector is going to drive these things. We have to be nimble, and we have to be able to work at the speed of the private sector. And Chris, you are a very big reason that we're able to do that. And Ellen, I mean, you've been doing such a great job. But at the end of the day, this kind of stuff, I'm sure Laura got the briefings before anyone else, being that this is District 4. And to get to this point, we all know Laura. I'm sure she challenged us a bit on a couple of things. But you know what? It's going to be done correctly, and we're all super excited about it. We continue to be a national leader today. I'm talking about the city of Phoenix, the national leader in tech job growth. And the driving forces, the driving sectors of our economy today are healthcare and information technology and advanced manufacturing. And the goal here and the key here is to continue to be competitive as a city, to compete for talent. We want to continue being that city that attracts people who want to work in these industries, because today's workforce can live and work anywhere. This is the type of project that brings people to Phoenix, and this is the type of project that brings people home to Phoenix. So, we continue to read about the great work that's being done with our universities and the fact that we're one of the largest exports of talent to the Silicon Valley. The question is, how do we bring them home? How do we all work as a community? Talking about the private sector and government, how do we all come together to make it the place that, again, attracts, retains, and develops the type of talent that continues to move us forward as a city? I'm really excited about this particular project, and so I'm looking forward to, passing this here, but also supporting it at the full council as well.
Chairman, if I might, I missed one item. We do have a letter of support from the Midtown Association as well. Ms. Harper and I did a presentation for them, and their board did provide us a letter of support late last evening.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you just reminded me, we have one more card wishing to not speak, but marked in favor, Dorina Bustamante. And I was almost there until I seen this. Now I'm there, Dorena. Dorena cares very much about this place. And you know what? And Steve Betts and Sharon Harper, two trailblazers and two people who care deeply about this state and this city and who weren't going anywhere. And your roots are here, and I think it's very good for our city to be working with you and having this partnership as well. So I'm excited about this. Again, I'm supportive. We do have a motion.
I need to make a motion.
Oh, I thought okay. Do we have a motion?
I move item number 13, item 13. My motion is to move it. Authorization to participate in an application requesting establishment of community facilities district and enter into a development agreement. That's my motion. I do have comments, but I'll wait till the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion. I think the vice mayor seconded the motion. You have comments, Councilwoman?
Yes, I do. I just want to say, as a girl growing up down the street and experiencing Park Central at all different levels and working at Park Central, and it used to be a space where a lot of us in high school would hang out. I obviously shopped a lot. Enjoyed, some people forget, but there was Newberry's in the center of the mall and had a basement and an upstairs. So when I hear people talking about a basement, I was like, oh yeah, that's Newberry's. So to see Park Central move to the next phase in its life is awesome. And the fact that I get to work with or worked with and continue to work with some great partners, quality partners that are trustworthy to make sure that in this next phase, Park Central will be where it's at, where the community wants it. The community had a lot of say in what they wanted to see Park Central look like. I appreciate Hulualoa for opening that space up for the community, because I feel like if the community is part at the beginning, they will stick with you all the way to the end. And so the fact that you got a letter from Midtown is a great accomplishment, because Midtown are, which is just like their councilwoman, tough and flexible, but would like to see quality within their neighborhood. I'd like to thank the staff, especially Denise, because I challenged Denise on this one and said, hey, we need it to get it to really at 0 and make the partnership really demonstrate it for the public good. For Alan and Chris, because Chris and I went round and round for a while, and she also heard a lot of my colleagues on where they wanted to see this land. So you guys took great, you got the direction, and you ended up in a great space where we're going to have an awesome project in the heart of the city. A community facility district helps us facilitate this type of dialogue and this partnership, and this will be a great example for the future. What I enjoy the most is, because I sit in other committees and hear about innovation, is that I was able to participate in other conversations and now use or play with, actually put it into play. The fact of the parking lot and be able to design it or have it designed where it can be changed for the future. And that's what I think is exciting and innovative about this. I'm hoping that the airport director's here, because this is probably what we want to see on 24th Street on our RFP and this type of innovation. But I'm glad it landed where it landed, in the heart of the city, and of course in District 4. So appreciate everything that you've done and all the partners that have helped to get us here. So thank you.
Great.
Now we vote.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to item 14. And look, and the aviation director is here, Laura.
I saw him early, I just wasn't sure if he's still here.
Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, we would like to discuss with you a voluntary property acquisition just north of the airport. As the council may recall, the airport for many, many, many years has been very strategically acquiring property just north of the airport and south of Washington for strategic purposes as an area for future growth of the airport. As the council is aware, we have a fairly constrained site at Sky Harbor, and that's the most logical place for future aviation development at Sky Harbor. With me today is Christina Madsen, our Deputy Aviation Director of Business and Properties, who will walk you through the proposed acquisition.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the council. So in August of this year, or last year, the property owner approached us to voluntarily acquire their property located at 3121 East Washington Street. The current owner acquired that property in 2012 for their small business, Arctic Paws. Arctic Paws is a manufacturing pet food product facility, and they operate out of 35,000 square feet with an additional 9,000 square feet of office space and warehouse. Arctic Paws has outgrown this facility, as well as they've created a new manufacturing process that requires more land versus building space. So the current owners are looking to relocate their operation closer to where they live in Gilbert or in Maricopa. They currently have 8 employees at this site, and they have been talking to us, and we've been doing our due diligence. So the property, as you can see on this slide, is adjacent to the airport. As Mr. Bennett indicated, we own about 165 acres scattered around on the north side, and this area is strategic to aviation and protecting the largest economic engine for the state. So on the right-hand side, you can see the parcel blown up in a larger view. In January of 2018, the property was appraised by an independent third-party appraiser, and based on the age and condition of the property's improvements, the appraiser concluded a value of $3.6 million. Staff has completed the environmental due diligence on this property. We conducted a phase 1 audit, and then we went to a phase 2, which included soil sampling, and I'm happy to report there is no contamination or remediation efforts that are necessary. So we are recommending that we acquire this property for the $3.6 million and move forward to full city council for their approval. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you so much. I do not have cards on this one, so that's... Okay, so any questions, comments, or a motion?
I'd like to make a comment. I have been around that airport for a very long time and was part of a master planning process, I think in the 90s, early 90s, that encouraged you to buy up to Washington and set this in motion. I congratulate you on continuing to try. I think it is extremely important to protect Sky Harbor. As you said, it is the economic engine, not only for the valley, but for the state. And we must do everything we can to make sure it thrives. It is just too important, so I would move approval of this.
Great, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion, comments?
I have a couple comments.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, when you did the evaluation, how much did they actually purchase the property back in 2012?
So, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Nowakowski, I don't have the exact number, but I can get that for you.
Off the top of your head, do you think it was close to 3 million, or was it under, over, or you're not really sure?
I don't even know sorry. That for you.
Councilman, is that, we still good with the,
Hold, or what do you want?
still good with the motion?
I mean, I'm good with the motion. As long as you give me that information, I can always reconsider my vote if it's way
fair.
under, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing the councilman's question and information that's requested, I think if you can just pass that to the full subcommittee, I think we would all appreciate that. We'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, the next item is the standing item that we've had on this subcommittee for probably a couple of years now, the FAA flight path update. Do we have an update?
And Mr. Chairman, joined once again by Assistant Director Deborah Ostreicher and Deputy Aviation Director Planning and Development Jordan Feld. And once again, it's nice to be in front of this committee with positive news, and I'll let Mr. Feld walk you through the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Happy to have this opportunity to present two very cool maps. So last time we presented, we were not able to show these maps, hence the excitement here, but in late March, they implemented the joint petition, at least 2/3 of it, which is what you're seeing here, the purple flight paths from all of April, and you can see the changes on the straight west departure as well as the northwest departure, and kind of moving forward to what I know many of you have very much concerns with. On April 9th, the FAA issued its findings for the Step 1B package that sets up their ability to implement the final change in the joint petition, which is the southwest route, and we expect them to implement that route on May 24th as we've been discussing and coordinating. So with that, again, here's the planner dork excitement map of the day. What we're looking for here is for that green and red to look pretty darn close to one another, and you can see they do look pretty close, Councilman. And not at all like the blue line, which is the other thing we're looking for here. So we would hope to bring back a map next month that will show the southwest change as well. Obviously, we won't have a whole month of data at that point, but at least enough to start to do the comparison analysis. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Pastor?
And by reaching this agreement, there's still efficiency happening, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Want it on the record.
Okay, we have no cards for this. Any other questions or comments, my colleagues? That is a very cool map.
Yeah.
It was.
Great colors.
I'm sorry it took us an hour and 20 minutes for you to. No, it is actually. It's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we want people to see. That's a great way to explain what's going on to everyone, for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the update. Moving on now to the call to the public. We don't have cards for this last call to the public. Any requests or future agenda items from my colleagues?
Wonder what Chuck Hoffman's here for.
We want that
I'm
on
sure
the
for a
agenda?
future agenda. I'm sure there'll be a future agenda item, something tells me. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.